What is up, guys? In today's video, I'm going to be going over several tips for team game modes in Fortnite, so solos, trios, and squads. As always, if you guys do enjoy this video, remember to give it a like, subscribe if you'd like to see more, and comment down below what your favorite game mode to play is in Fortnite. Also, if you guys have been subbed to the channel for a while, this is a video I make every few months or so, but it's something that is worth going over. And Fortnite is a game that always has new players kind of coming and going, so while you may have already seen me make this video before, not everyone has. And the first piece of advice I have is that you still need to play well as an individual. I feel like with team game modes, people get so caught up in the fact that it's squads or duos or whatever that they forget that they also have to play well. A lot of things when it comes down to just fighting, good fighting habits are good fighting habits whether it's in solos or squads. So using right shoulder peek, using cover as much as possible, having good aim. Everything you do to play a fight well translates to every game mode in the game. At the end of the day, Fortnite is Fortnite, and having different team sizes does change some things about the game. Fighting is still fighting, and so the more good habits you have when it comes to fighting and the better you are at fighting, the easier it is going to be to play well in these modes. And then also, I think it is important to still think about yourself. I feel like this is a problem I have because I mostly play solos, but when I play something like duos or squads, I worry too much about what my teammates doing and trying to help them that I feel like I play much worse as an individual. So obviously you do want to help your teammate and play off your teammate, but also remember that you do have to play well as an individual and don't lose everything about how you play the game to try to help your teammate, because at times you're probably just going to be making things harder. One of the most important things in team game modes is going to be team shotting, and this is just when you and your teammate are shooting at the same opponent. The reason why this is so helpful is because it allows you to eliminate people much faster, and then that gives you a numbers advantage, which is then going to make the fight much easier to play out. So whenever possible, I think it's best to focus out the same target and get them knocked as fast as possible. And communicating this is also very important. You can call out the skin you're shooting. I'm shooting the red knight, or if you don't know the name of the skin, just say the color they are, I'm shooting the red one, or their position. If you have two players walking and you're shooting at the back one, maybe say yo, let's shoot at the back one, and then 3 2 1, y'all shoot at the same time, and you eliminate that person as fast as possible, give them less opportunity to react, and make that fight much easier for you to play. And even if you don't have the greatest communication, I feel like it is somewhat easy to just look at the opponent your teammate is shooting and then just shoot at that person as well. It would depend on the angle and what you see, obviously, but if you can clearly see which opponent your teammate is shooting, then maybe trying to focus that one out as well, even without comms, is a good play to make, because getting numbers advantage in team game modes is the core of the game. I think the more numbers advantage situations you have, the better. And so if you can open a fight with a quick knock on the enemy team, then that makes it so much easier for you to play that fight. If it's duos and you get a quick knock, you now have a 2v1. You have double the firepower, and not only do you have more firepower that is concentrated on the same target, whereas the enemy has to be shooting at 2 different people. So as many numbers advantage situations you have, the better. Can happen from getting a knock. This can happen from maybe you getting damage on one player and then that player backing up when the other one hasn't yet, because a lot of times when you damage people, they're going to stop the heal. This can happen in early game just because people have split timing. If the enemy team dropped in a bad way, then that hey, we can pinch this one, or we can push this one together, get a 2v1, get that knock, get that person out of the game early. And not only does that give you an easy win in a fight, but it also makes the other fight a 2v1 as well, which is, again, going to make it much easier for you to win that fight. So, identifying these situations and taking advantage of them is incredibly important. And like I already said, some of that is going to come from, you getting a knock. Some of it might come from, early game timing. Some of it might come from, the enemies messing up and being, split on their timing. A lot of things can cause this, but the better you are at identifying those situations and taking advantage of them, the easier your game is going to be. And I feel like that is the key difference between team game modes and solos. It's just those situations and how you take advantage of them. One thing you can do to try to make mid-range fights, or even not even just mid-range fights, but one thing you can do to make fights easier for yourself is get different angles from your teammates whenever possible. Like, you still want to be close enough to help each other, but if there's multiple pieces of cover around, or even just like a porta bunker, you can kind of play in a way where y'all have different angles, and that's going to make it harder for the enemy team to like protect themselves versus you. Because like, if the enemy team is behind a tree and you're behind a rock to the left and your teammate is on like a rock to the right, you might shoot at them, and then they over adjust in such a way where they're more susceptible to getting fried by your teammate. And then when that happens, they go back to your side, and you just like force them into a situation where it's so much harder for them to play the game when they're getting shot from multiple angles, because most people's instinct when they're getting shot is just to like get away from that, and they don't think as much about like the potential for other angles. It just makes it so much harder for the enemies to use cover. It makes the fight so much more complicated for them to play. It makes it so much easier for you to play because they're going to be in that really bad situation. It's also important to remember that enemies can do this too. If you're in a fight and you've only seen one person and you're playing duos, then like you kind of need to keep in mind that, hey, we've only seen one. It's possible this guy is a solo, but it's also possible his teammate is like lurking somewhere, getting a different angle and like waiting to capitalize on that. So try to keep track of the enemy team when you are in fights, like how many players you have seen, because that can be helpful in you like protecting yourself from this situation before it even happens. Like I said, though, there might be times where the enemy team is just down players already, and then that would, you know, make that not as big of a deal. But just, it's good to keep in mind that anything you can do, the enemies can also do. And so the more exposed you are to like making that happen, the worse off for you. Also, I think comms are like an important topic in team game modes that often goes underrated or overrated, depending on how you look at it. But a lot of people just call out enemy locations, and the most common communication you'll get from a teammate is they're right there. But that is pretty useless because you're not looking at their screen. You don't know exactly where their reticle is. So right there is typically a terrible call out unless you are like pinging the area with danger mark. As you do that, then that's different. But typically you want to describe where the enemy team is. Like if they're at a house, say they're at the house. You might say they're right here if they're like on you, jumping on you or something. But for the most part, try to have more descriptive callouts than just they're right there. Also, communicate things like whether or not you can help your teammate, whether you're behind them when they're pushing. If y'all's timing is bad, they need to know that before they get into the fight, and then maybe they push anyways if they think it's worth. But also they might slow down to help you. It really depends on the situation. If you get it's duos and you get a knock and then the other one is like fried 150, if you have split timing, it's not the end of the world, you know. But if it's a somewhat fresh duo you're pushing, you probably want to like wait up and make sure y'all have like similar timing. Also, communicating things like what you want to do in the game before it's possible, especially in like a chaotic end game, is very, very helpful. Again, you can use the danger marks to kind of ping where you want to go, but setting up a plan and rotating to that plan that you talked about beforehand makes it so much easier than doing something on the fly. This is something, again, I'm not the best at times because I mostly play solos, but yeah, communication is more than just enemy locations. It's also what you want to do, what your state in the game is, you know, whether or not you are or aren't able to help your teammate. There's so much more than just he's right there. Also, I think one of the easiest way to do well in team game modes is just to play off your teammate as much as possible. This is something that I would typically do if I'm playing with somebody who's like more aggressive than me. I'll just follow them, play support, and then like we're going to do well and we're automatically going to have good teamwork because all I'm trying to do is play off this person. A lot of teamwork just comes down to that, like one person being willing to compromise and play off the other, especially in duos. And squads is a bit harder because you have more people, but in duos all it takes is one person deciding to play a more supportive role, and then y'all probably automatically have good teamwork. But the problem is a lot of people don't do this. They just all do their own thing, and it's a struggle. And so there's always that meme of like the teammate going off on their own and fighting a squad on their own and how that's ruining the game. But at the end of the day, like if somebody's going off on their own, like why are you not with them? You know, like it's not just, it's a problem that you can potentially solve if you choose to work with the other person rather than expecting them to automatically work with you. But the way I see it framed in the Fortnite community is always that like my teammate does their own thing. Again, in squads, it's different because there's more people. But in duos, you should probably try to always be with your teammate and like playing off your teammate as much as possible. And then the final thing I'm going to talk about that I think is incredibly obvious, but I've seen commented on a lot of my videos whenever I do play team game modes, is that sharing loot is very helpful, and for some reason a lot of people don't do this. So like ammo can be helpful to share if your teammate doesn't have enough ammo. Some of the medallions can be helpful to share. For example, the Emma Frost medallion this season has a separate scan for each player, so you can drop it to different teammates and get scans on different timing intervals and potentially just get a scan right when you need one, and that's really helpful. Mobility items can be helpful to share amongst the team. Shield bubbles can be helpful to share amongst the team. Like a lot of consumable items, it's better for everybody to have a little bit than just one person have all of it, especially mobility. Like I said, I feel like this goes without sharing, or goes without saying, but sharing loot with your teammates typically will make it easier for y'all to play the game. But that is going to be it for this video. I feel like the bulk of it is just, you know, team shotting, taking advantage of numbers situations, and then having, you know, okay-ish communication. And if you do those things and you're decent at the game as an individual, you're probably going to do well. As always, if you guys did enjoy this video, remember to give it a like, subscribe if you like some more, comment down below what your favorite game mode in Fortnite is, and I will see you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching.